Hey, this is Noah. I feel that it is necessary for me to start this by saying it is very funny to me that it took Sega doing this to get me to make a video after over 2 months. Make no mistake, I have tried to record things, but nothing has really captivated my interest enough to push through it. But let me offer to you my feelings, thoughts, and opinions on Sega's very big announcement from the Game Awards. Sega prefaced their announcement by sending out some letters to some influencers, namely some fighting game YouTubers. So people kind of thought that they were going to announce Virtua Fighter 6. And while I was also in that boat, I'm honestly not mad that it wasn't that. If I'm being honest, what we got, I'm kind of more happy about it than Virtua Fighter 6, because while I would be more than happy about a Virtua Fighter thing, objectively, 5 games versus 1, the math is very simple. It is not hard. Getting into it, Jet Set Radio, the game that has been rumored, leaked for like a year now. We finally got an official point of notice that the game exists. It looks more cel-shaded than I thought it was going to be. Some of those like preview things that we've seen, like those key arts, would have had me think it was going to have a bit more of a rugged look than this. But I'm not mad about it. I would hope that it would retain more of the cel-shaded look, especially because Jet Set Radio is one of the first video games to actually use cel-shading. Kind of an innovator in that. I like the visual effects that they have for things like the grinding. If you look in real close, they have some flat textures that are being shown as the visual effects, and it reminds me of some of the cool animation styles that we're seeing in 3D animated films and TV shows like Arcane and Spider-Verse, where it's a mixture of those disciplines of 3D models mimicking the look of 2D drawings and just actual 2D drawings. I like that for this game because that to me is a nice evolution of the style that Jet Set Radio has, and at the same time is a marriage of what style Jet Set Radio has gone for historically and something that's in now. I don't have much else to say about it. There's not a whole lot to work with. I'm sure somebody out there is probably doing their frame-by-frame analysis, but to me, the art style is what really strikes me. I have a lot more to say about Streets of Rage 5, which for the record, I'm going to call it Streets of Rage 5, even though there's the possibility that it wouldn't be. It's just easier to call it that. This is going to sound stupid, but hear me out. I think it is a big deal that this is being presented in the way that it is, because it almost comes across to me like this game is strictly being published by Sega. And that sounds like a, well, duh, but hear me out. Streets of Rage 4 was not published by Sega. And for the last 5 years, since the launch of the Switch, Sega has been doing this really smart marketing strategy where they have been licensing out their IPs to other companies to allow them to develop their games and publish them. Sega didn't develop Streets of Rage 4, and they most certainly did not publish it. They did not publish Shenmue 3, they did not publish Space Channel 5 VR, and I don't think they published Alex Kidd and Miracle World DX. Or the Panzer Dragoon remake, or the House of the Dead remake. The whole point is that they gave the rights to developers who want to try to make their own game, and those developers had to seek out their own publishing. It was almost completely hands-off, and it was pretty smart to me because I always thought, okay, so this is their strategy. They're going to build up these IPs again by literally letting other people do their job for them, and once they're ready and those IPs have been revitalized, maybe they would seek into publishing it themselves again. And if this announcement, being that it's a celebration of these Sega IPs all being bundled together into this one big combo meal announcement, that would have me think that Sega has enough confidence in these things that they're actually the ones publishing this. And if they are, then that means my prediction, my assumption, my belief in what their strategy is supposed to be has actually reached the next stage, the next level of what I thought it would be. And that feels very good for me to know that I kind of had a good read on it. That being said, onto like the actual trailer here. I'm not super sold on the Streets of Rage thing here. It's a 3D beat 'em up, for sure, but in general, there's a lot of beat 'em ups that have come and gone and are really, really good. River City Girls 2, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one that came out recently, the Battletoads one, which I thought was okay. And the landscape for beat 'em ups is wide. It's varied. And the ceiling in which you need to achieve for your quality is much higher, ironically, thanks to Streets of Rage 4. Streets of Rage 4 set a new standard for how beat-em-ups can be done. Quoting Donkey, Streets of Rage 4 is acting like the competition is still fierce. The funny thing is, it incited the competition, in my opinion. So, for them to make a new Streets of Rage after 4, really cool. Really glad that Streets of Rage 4 has incited the interest to come back as a franchise. Really cool. To evolve past what 4 did and try to move into 3D, really cool. That's what I would think would make the most sense. We need to evolve past what 4 did, we need to do something more. Naturally, doing a 3D beat 'em up makes sense. Cool. I'm with you there. It doesn't look good though. It doesn't look great. I don't want to say that because I want to make sure that you understand. I fully understand that the video shows, even at the bottom, that this is in development footage. And they make it very clear this is in development. All of the stuff in the trailers are subject to change, and we don't even know when these games are coming out. It could not be for maybe 2 years, or might be coming out next month. I really hope that y'all understand that. Because I think now, more than any other time, it is important to offer critiques. Because now is when that can be changed, and we can change that perspective that people will have on the games if we change it now. You know, first impressions are the most important. Well, so far only one little teaser for these games has been shown off. Now would be the good time to offer the critiques and hope that Sega corporate actually hears it and the developers get the opportunity to make those changes. So, to me, I think it looks dated. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But to me, it reads like how the Panzer Dragoon remake looks. It kind of looks like, you know, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and say this about Golden Axe because my thoughts are about the same with Golden Axe as that Streets of Rage thing. Golden Axe has not had a game in 10 years or so, probably longer than that now. And this game kind of looks like what a game would have come out 10 years ago. Like as if this is actually the game we missed out on. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. There are games that come out that look dated and are perfectly fine. The Panzer Dragoon remake, I genuinely enjoyed it for what it was. But I'm just like, what's our scope here? Are we trying to make a game as good as like Yakuza is now, or are we just trying to make something to the scale of like an indie developer? You know, you didn't tell us who's developing these. I'm half expecting Streets of Rage 5 to just be like, how do I put this? Something relatively small scale. I mean, Streets of Rage 4 in itself was kind of small scale. It's big for that series, but it's very indie, and that's fine. But I don't know what to make of Streets of Rage 5. I hope it's bigger. That's what I want. I want something that I can sink my teeth into. But, the last time I played a 3D beat-em-up game was Shaq Fu, A Legend Reborn. So it's kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, you know? I'd love to see them push Streets of Rage eventually to being like Yakuza, and it would be kind of cool. If Yakuza moves on to being just turn-based RPGs, there's a void for just beat-em-ups, 3D RPG things. Streets of Rage. Slot it in, do that. But we're not there yet. Do this, make it good. Then let's talk about making it into just Yakuza. I'm not going to complain if it's just Yakuza. Streets of Rage fans who are 40 will complain. I won't. I'm cool. Appeal to me. I will buy the game. The environments in the game are another thing. It's like, to be clear about what I don't like about the way it looks is it doesn't look as vibrant as I'd want. The colors are a bit muted. The environments look a little buggy. It reads like Final Fight Streetwise. Not as bad, but close to that. Like, you compare the way it looks in these trailers to Streets of Rage 4. I mean, the comparison is real simple. We need more color. Come on. I don't want to be playing another Final Fight Streetwise. I already suffered through that once. I don't want to play another Urban Reign. I already suffered through that once. I need goofy game. Come on. I'm going to come back to Shinobi. I'm going to skip ahead to Golden Axe. Between Shinobi and Golden Axe, I don't know which of these two I was least expecting definitively, but it probably was Golden Axe. Golden Axe as a series has not had anything new since Beast Rider and that weird sort of in-progress demo that never got finished. And ironically, Beast Rider is the reason we haven't gotten anything new. I always felt like Golden Axe was the perfect IP for Sega to try to make something like God of War or the Castlevania games from the 2010s. And as I understand it, Beast Rider was also kind of pushing to be that, an open world fantasy RPG type thing, reminiscent of God of War, but ended up not doing that because it went horrible. Frankly, looking at the teaser, it kind of does look like those Castlevania games. And I mean that in a good way and a bad way. I mean it in a good way because the gameplay looks similar to it being a 3D action game. But I also mean it in a bad way because it actually looks like it came from that time period. Again, let me make that very clear. I understand. It's in development. I'm just saying it like I see it. So, the big thing about it is that, it actually kind of looks like a fan game made in Unreal Engine as a proof of concept of what Sega could be doing. And the big thing that set me off on that was, look at the camera when, look at the screen when the character's turning, okay? The animation for the character looks a little first pass energy, and the motion blur when the camera's turning really looks like those Unreal Engine fan game type things. I would not be shocked if it's actually being made in Unreal Engine and is being made with a smaller team. Low-key probably had to push this out for the sake of this announcement without really being ready. If I know anything about Sega, it's that they love pushing things out before they're ready. My expectations for this are very low, not because I don't think it'll be good, but because I kind of don't know what to expect. If that makes sense. I guess I kind of know what I don't expect, which is I don't expect it to be an expansive adventure game akin to The Legend of Zelda or Legacy of Kain. I wouldn't mind that. I'd love that. I've been kind of missing out on that since Zelda has turned into Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So, if they want to make a Zelda-like game, like Ocarina of Time, I'm not saying no. Or Darksiders. Darksiders is kind of the same thing. If you make Darksiders, but with, Golden Axe, I'll put my money down right now. I found it funny when I was watching people's reactions to this thing, and almost exclusively, the big thing that makes people, pop off was, Crazy Taxi. I just think that's funny. But Crazy Taxi was the other one that people were leaking, rumoring, what have you. And I honestly have more questions than I do, answers. I love that this has been confirmed that it's really happening. And I've seen in the trailer, it appears to me like there's multiplayer. That's really cool. But what I want to know is this a live service game? A lot of the things that people were rumoring about Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio was framed around this idea of, the super game. And while these could be that, the trailer doesn't, instill that feeling in me. Especially because I'd find it weird if Sega decided to reveal two live service games, being Jet Set Radio and Crazy Taxi, the two games that were rumored to be these super games, but then also reveal it around, 3 games that probably aren't. You know? That would be weird. Sega's weird a lot of the times. It makes very strange corporate decisions. But to me, that's weird. So I'm going forward with the assumption that these games are probably not primarily live service games, though they may have some live service elements. Now, with that in mind, the multiplayer thing instills some confidence in me that it'll be actually really good. Because I had an idea that I think I might have even said in a video. At this point, I haven't kept track if it's something I've actually uploaded or something that I recorded and then scrapped. But I had an idea where I was talking to a friend about the idea of the Crazy Taxi live service game, and I was trying to, mock it. I was trying to make fun of it by saying, oh, what is it going to be, a battle royale thing where everyone's trying to stay in the game by, trying to meet the quotas. And as I said that, I was like, actually, hold on a second, that's kind of cool. The idea of multiplayer Crazy Taxi, where everyone is trying to, do Crazy Taxi, actually would be very fun. And the way that you get knocked out of this battle royale is exactly the same way that you would normally in the game. You run out of time, and the last person standing wins. Well, this trailer, or teaser really, has instilled to me that there might be the possibility that my pie-in-the-sky idea might actually be true, albeit not with 99 people. Multiplayer Crazy Taxi would go crazy. Lastly, I want to give some special mention specifically to Shinobi. I saved this for last. You can tell I'm very excited about that. Like, I will regret for a long time not recording my reaction to this. There were reasons that I couldn't. But I was popping off. I was screaming. I was lightheaded after that. I want to reveal something that I have been working on. I've been hesitating to reveal this because I don't want to I don't want to promise that I'm going to make something and then not do it. Like, I want to hold off on specifying that a project is a thing until I actually have it ready to go. Because this, in particular, is a big project that has required a lot of work. And it's been being worked on for some time. But what I was doing was I am working on a kind of retrospective on the Shinobi series. And the idea is that I was playing through all of them in release order. And I was going to write down all my thoughts on the series, background information on the games themselves, and in particular, highlighting how the games evolve gameplay-wise, in particular, for the player character. And it's genuinely quite fascinating to watch. In my head, while I know that this probably wouldn't have happened, I wanted to do so to bring highlight to the series in hopes that maybe by doing so, it will help to bring it back into the zeitgeist and have a chance at bringing the series back from the dead. I almost wish I had actually finished the work and finished those videos so that maybe I could speculate on whether or not I made a difference. Now I can't really do that. I see games like Devil May Cry and Ghost of Tsushima and constantly are just like, I would love it so much if Sega made a game out of Shinobi in these styles. To see a new Shinobi game done in a 2D hand-drawn style genuinely was the peak announcement for this whole thing. The whole Sega thing as a whole. Peak. But the Shinobi thing in particular, that was what made it. In spite of how short the teaser is, there are still bits and pieces in it that you can draw some conclusions from that I'm really excited about, that are kind of like evolutions from the series going into what I was wanting to make in that video or videos. You see in the trailer that he does some air combos, which is interesting because throughout the history of the series, the amount of actions you can take slowly got more and more the attacks that the main character would have in their arsenal. And it eventually got to the point where, yeah, in the Saturn game, the last of the major 2D series, you can do a lot of different air attacks, but you couldn't really do, like, combos. As you go into the 3D era where you're playing as a new character, you can basically stay in the air so long as you're not bad. You can do air dashes after attacks, and so long as there's enemies in the air, you can just keep going. So, to make a 2D game and adapt now the ability to do some intricate air attacks is a cool way to evolve the older games and pay homage to the 3D era games. And going off of that, I see a clip in there where he's doing a wall run to get up a ledge. Once again, that's not something that you could do in the 2D games, but in the 3D games, you could wall run, albeit it was mostly just horizontal for the sake of looking cool. Once again, adding something to the 2D formula that was primarily introduced in the 3D era, fantastic. Perfect. Couldn't ask for anything better. I see all the fun things that I would hope for. Attacks, kunai, ninjutsu, garbage magic thing. Very cool. It's everything I want. The visuals in the game genuinely have me kind of speechless. Like, I would never have assumed that they would like, actually bother to make a full, like, 2D hand-drawn thing on top of it genuinely just looking good. Some of the shots, I do not have words. Like, what is going on in this clip with him riding, like, the spirit dog and the Titan from Sonic Frontiers in the background? I think this idea of making Shinobi into more of a fantastical IP as opposed to before is something that I can well appreciate. As time has gone on, Shinobi has gone from being a relatively grounded, like, kung fu action film vibe of a ninja thing to slowly becoming more invested in the fantastical. Stuff like that gets touched on in the 3D era, but it's not really well explicit. Other ninja IPs from other companies, like Ghost of Tsushima, which counts, do not argue with me, are relatively grounded. They're not based in a lot of fantasy. So in my opinion, I feel like pushing Shinobi to be more into the fantastical is a good idea. It gives it a bit more staying power and identity over some of the other ones. I've debated for, like, hours with my buddies at work about, like, how does Sega bring back Shinobi and make it relevant without just making it's Devil May Cry, but Shinobi, it's Ghost of Tsushima, but it's Shinobi. And while I would be happy with any one of those concepts, because ultimately Devil May Cry and Ghost of Tsushima are great games, trying to work out the nuance of how do we make people want to come for Shinobi, though. Making it into a fantastical setting, somewhat, to me, is speaking like that. As I was writing some of the notes that I wanted to include in this video, I saw a tweet from Lizard Cube that would have me and some other people posturing that Lizard Cube might be the ones behind this, which means we have a new discussion about it, where this game might be closer to a completed point than some of the other games in the announcement, because Lizard Cube has been teasing for quite some time that they have this third game that they're working on. They have been very tight-lipped about what it is. Some people baselessly have thought it might be Shinobi, but here it may actually be the case. And if that's the case, they've been working on this for quite some time. But for now, just know that this game has been worked on for quite some time, and I think it shows. I think visually it looks more cohesive than some of the other ones, which I think is not fair for me to say as I'm saying that, because it's a very different style than, like, the Streets of Rage or Golden Axe things. Anyway, I'm not going to complain if it's closer to completion, because that means we're getting it sooner. And, hey, you know, if it comes out next year, I'll take it. Absolutely, here's my money. Sega's cooking. I won't lie. It almost made me forget about the cancellation of Hyenas.
No, we're killing this guy now. Alright. No!
Ah!
Help!
You didn't tell him that
Please.
you were.
Come on!
Oh my god.
Hold on, I got
Wait,
the zombie
she
bug.
down too!
I got the zombie bug.
Alright.
Come on!
Kill her.
Come on!
Kill her.
Come on!
Where'd she go?
Die!
Yes! Yes! End her! Kill!
I'm still remembering that, but I'm not going to complain about the games we're getting. It's like, you know, I'm mad about one decision for them to cancel one game, but I'm happy about them announcing 5 games that are all games I want to play. If I'm supposed to vote with my dollar, then logic shows that I should just go buy those games and play them. Life is confusing. But anyway, what do you guys think of Sega's massive announcement from the Game Awards? There's still so much that I want to say, but, like, I think my phone is actually dying. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about every single one of these. This is Noah. Jet Set Radio. Streets of Rage. Shinobi. Golden Axe. Crazy Taxi. See ya.